Hi guys, hope you're all doing well. My name is Emma and today I'm going to share all of my knitting updates for the last month. Alright, I'm going to try and make this monthly updates like a really quick one because I feel like I end up rambling on for too long. I've only got a couple of things to cover over this month. First up, we've got one finished piece. So my finished piece is another one of these. This is not actually the finished piece because the one I finished was a gift, so it is already gone, but I made a duplicate of this particular beanie. This is exactly the same one as I talked about like last month, apart from I did a black one last month, which I also ended up gifting that one, so I'm going to have to make myself another black version of this cable beanie. But anyways, this is the classic cable beanie by Bee Hooked Crochet. Just calls for any medium weight yarn and is knit on a combination of 5.5 and 3.5 millimeter needles. Super simple construction. You knit from the bottom up. You start with some 2x2 ribbing, move into some cable sections, and then you work some decreases into those cables to work the crown section, and then you just finish it off with a little pom-pom on top. So I used exactly the same yarn and combination, color, everything that you see here, but I did follow the updated version of the pattern. So same as what I did with the black one that I talked through last month. So I ended up using 4.5s for the ribbing section on the bottom. I did the Judy's Magic cast on again as my provisional cast on. So you can see on this one there's like an obvious line. I don't know if I took a photo or not of my cast on edges, but it was more obvious. You could see the difference between the two cast on edges of the light color yarn versus the black yarn. But yeah, used Judy's Magic cast on, did my 2x2 brim, same kind of length, in 4.5 millimeter needles, and then I switched to 5 millimeter needles for the cable section. Did 2 cable repeat rounds before starting my decreases on it, and I did the same size as I did last time too. So I followed the large adult size and cast on 120 stitches. And I can't remember, I don't even know if I tried the finished beanie on, but I think this one is a little bit tighter because I actually remember I weaved in some extra elasticy thread with this one. So I feel like that's maybe why this particular beanie, because it's got a larger stitch count, fits tight. And then the other ones I did with 120 stitches, which is like 2 cables less, they still fit the same. I think it's because I actually put some thin as elastic. It was super thin elastic. I didn't even think it did anything, but maybe it did. But yeah, I knit that beanie over the course of 7 days. It took me 12 hours, and the cost for the beanie was $4.32. All my thoughts around that pattern, everything is exactly the same because I just keep making them, and I'm going to remake the black one as well. I think with the black one I might do my cables so that they twist the other way, because this is like left leaning cable, so you do a slip slip knit as the decrease. If I do a right leaning cable, then I'll do a knit 2 together as the decrease, and I feel like they might look a little bit neater. So I might try that on the black one, but with the black yarn it's harder to see the stitch definition anyway, so I don't know if it will really make much of a difference, but I might try it when I make yet another one of these beanies. Okay, let's move into the whips. All right, so for whips, I've got how many? 1, 2, 3, 4 whips to chat through. We'll start with this one here, which is my Zipper Sweater Light, which is patterned by Petite Knit. So that you can see, here's where I'm up to for mine. I really haven't done much on this at all since I last chatted to you guys. I think I've just worked a little bit more of the yoke length, which is barely even noticeable difference from last time. But this pattern is the DK weight version of the zipper sweater, so it's meant to be knit on 4 millimeter needles. It is knit top down and raglan style shoulder and all over stockinette stitch. The yoke section is mostly knit flat, like you can see what I'm doing at the moment, and that's just down until the point of where the zipper gap is. Once you reach the right depth for your zipper, you end up joining it in the round and working everything else in the round. So you basically start by casting on with Judy's Magic cast on that you can see here. which is the right side, wrong side. There we are. So Judy's Magic Cast On, cast on, it just gives you that really nice, neat, seamless edge there. So you just knit all your ribbed collar section, fold it over, connect it, and then you start working on the yoke. So the yoke section, you're doing your German short rows for a little bit of shaping, as well as starting to work your raglan increases. Like I mentioned before, you'll continue to knit flat until you reach the depth for your zipper. Join in the round, continue to knit your yoke down to the right depth for the underarms. It's when you separate body and sleeves, and then you're basically just knitting both the arms and the body down until you reach a desired length, and then just finish off in 1 by 1 ribbing. There's some gradual decreases that do run down the sleeve section, and then lastly you would install your zipper into the piece. So for my piece, I'm using this Temu yarn. So it's meant to be 100% cashmere. I'm holding it double with this sporting cotton that it kind of comes with. And I've got this one in the color number 37 coffee. So it's exactly the same as my gift knit zipper sweater, but this one's just going to be one for me. So I'm also using 4.5 millimeter needles. I sized up in 0.5s for every section of mine. And I am going to be making my version of the zipper sweater in a extra large. So my gift knit was, I think the body stitch count ended up coming to a large, and that looked really good on. It had about 15 centimeters of positive ease on me. So I want just a little bit more ease. So I'm going up to an extra large, and I should get just over 20 centimeters of positive ease. The only other mods that I'm making on mine is for my collar. I've actually cast it on for the largest possible size, and it's only 8 stitches more than the extra large that I'm making, so it's not significantly larger than it's before. But I found with the gift knit one, I initially cast it on as a medium, but I did find that the collar was just very, very tight when I had it on. When you zip it up, didn't really loosen it all. I kind of wanted a little bit more of a baggy collar. So even this one's looking quite fitted, but then I haven't blocked it or anything like that. So I'm hoping that there's just a little bit of looseness on the collar by making the largest one. And then to compensate for the extra stitches, I'm just going to do one raglan increase round less than what I'm meant to be doing, because that's 8 stitches per raglan increase round. So one less increase round, and I should even out my stitch count again so that the body and the yoke and everything is to the size extra large. Hopefully that made sense. But yeah, that's the only mods that I'm doing on mine. I've spent 17 hours on that piece so far, so really only a few hours more since last time. And yeah, all I've done is that collar, the short rows are done, and now I've just got to work the yoke down until I reach my zipper depth. But I don't know, I'm just not really feeling that motivated to work on that particular piece. I haven't really got much done on it, and I don't know if I'm going to get much done on it, because I'll touch on why in just a second with my other pieces. But yeah. Now, talking about other pieces that have taken up a lot of my time, this guy has taken up so much of my time. This is why I haven't been working on my zipper sweater, because this guy's just been where all of my excitement went to at the start of the month. It was on this. So this is my Arctic Like sweater by Kutovakika. Hopefully I got that right this time. So it calls for DK plus a lace or a mohair held together, and it's meant to be knit on 5mm needles for the body section, and all the ribbing's meant to be done on 3mm needles. In terms of construction, it's actually fairly straightforward. It is a top-down knit, raglan style shoulder, and it's knit with this beautiful all over textured cable details. It just looks beautiful. So for this one, you start by just casting on, you knit your twisted rib for the collar, then you move on to your yoke. So you've got to start establishing all of your charts for the different sections that you're working for, the sleeve, the front and the back, and the raglan seam or line, whatever we want to call it there. So you establish all your charts and you're basically just knitting down for your yoke until you reach the right yoke depth, doing increases on your raglans. Once you reach that right depth, you separate body and sleeves and you just continue to knit those sections in the same pattern until you reach your desired length. There are some decreases that are worked in with the sleeve, and then you would just finish off your sections with, again, your 1x1 twisted rib. And then she says at the end you're meant to fold over and seam in your collar there as well. So for my piece, I've used the Bendigo Woolen Mills Whisper 8 ply, which is their merino superwash. I'm pretty sure it's still superwash yarn, and mine's in the color 2512 Champagne. That yarn is beautiful, by the way. I highly recommend the merino over their standard wool. It's so nice. It's so nice and soft. It's lovely. Anyways, I paired that with Drops Kid Silk yarn, which is the 75% mohair, 25% silk, and mine was in the color number 20 light beige. And so that combo has just given me this really nice kind of cool tone, beigey cream neutral kind of jumper, which I'm loving this kind of color combo, and I'm really loving the feel of these two yarns together. It's really nice and soft and like silky feeling. It's gorgeous. Needles for mine, I did size up, so I've used 5.5s for the body section and I used 3.5s for my ribbing section, and I'm making mine, or have been making mine so far, to a size large. Couple changes that I've made on mine. First of all, the pattern tells you to kind of like knit a big collar section and then like fold it down and seam it later. I just did Judy's Magic cast on and seamed mine down right from the get-go. I don't know why that's not already part of the pattern. It just makes sense to do that. I did add the short rows based on other people's project notes, and I also spaced out my raglan increases as well. So basically in the pattern, the increases are done every single round, and then you just stop at a certain point and just continue to knit the yoke to the right depth. But for mine, I started spacing them out, and you can kind of see like around about here-ish somewhere, that kind of twisted rib, not twisted rib, sorry, the twisted knit stitch that runs down the side. It gets a little bit wonky when I started spacing them out to every other round. But because it's in the seed stitch, you can't tell too much. So I'm not super duper mad with it, but it doesn't look super neat and tidy and crisp. But my hope with the spacing of the raglans that it would give me a bit of a better fit and avoid that armpit wedge, but you know, spoiler, it did not. So since you last saw this piece, I previously had done my short rows, but I did them wrong, so I did rip back that section. I re-knit my short rows and I actually re-knit the entire yoke. So I've spent 71.5 hours on my piece so far, so it's an extra 50 hours since you last saw it. And since you last saw it, yeah, so like I said, I did rip back my short rows. I redid them. I actually knit my entire yoke. It was like down to like here. And I blocked my piece and it was just huge. Like the whole thing was just super duper jumbo. The sleeves were definitely way too big. And even the body section was leaning a little bit too big as well. We were just getting like out of control. In terms of ease, we're hitting above 30 centimeters on the body. So everything was just looking a little bit too big and I wasn't really happy with how the fit, because the arms are so huge. The fabric did fold over and that's what's actually causing that armpit wedge situation. It's just because the sleeves are too big. I've got some footage of me like measuring this flat and you can see the entire yoke is just like a big square. Whereas typically yokes, like they normally slant down on the shoulders. For raglans, they're more of like a cone shape because the sleeves are meant to be not as large as like the body, you know, whereas my sleeves are like basically just a couple stitches off. So yeah, I really wasn't happy with the fit, so I did rip back like half my yoke to reduce my stitch count on the sleeves to a medium, and that's basically where we're at the moment. But I'm still, I don't know, I'm not 100% happy with this, I'm really in two minds with what I should do next. I'm considering ripping back this entire yoke and starting it again, because I want to size down, I think, in my needles, since everything's coming out way bigger than it needs to be anyways. The main reason I want to size down on my needles is because now that I've blocked this, like, I think most of the stitches all look fine. Everything looks good. I do feel like my moss stitch looks a little bit spacey. I don't think it's like super obvious on the camera, but it's more so like the purl sections. You can kind of see how like these purl sections here just look kind of like spaced out and like quite big. And that's what it looks like in all the sample photos and everything like that. So it's how it's intended to be, but I don't know if I like that. I think I might prefer for it to be just a little bit of a tighter gauge. I think all the cables and everything look fine, probably because there's so many like twisted stitches. But yeah, I don't know, I just feel like it's all a little bit loose and it could look a little bit better if it was a little bit tighter. It doesn't need to be any tighter for any warmth because this is going to be a super duper warm jumper as it is. But I'm really in two minds about it, to be honest, whether or not I want to size down in my needles or not. Yeah. If I do end up sizing down, there's a couple other tweaks that I want to make with this as well, which is why I'm kind of like, maybe I should just rip it back and redo it. Because first things first, my short row shaping that I did here, where the short rows are placed and how you kind of modify it, it does extend the length before you start twisting your cables just by a smidge. And I just feel like this looks a little bit weird. Like it should have like a twist here. It kind of looks like it's missing a twist, like right up here. So if you look at the back, you can see the twist starts like much higher up kind of than on the front, right? And I think my short rows just look a little bit wonky as well because I did German short rows. So I'm kind of like, maybe I should redo that, do wrap and turns instead. It might look a little bit better. And also I kind of looked at the pattern and I tried to rework where I want to place my short rows, because I think it might be better to actually start working them after you do your first cable twist, eliminate the next 3 cable twists, so still doing the same number of short rows, but just starting a little bit like a row or 2 lower than where the instructions kind of tell you. And then when you start working full rounds again, you'll have to work your cables on the opposite side. So you just need to twist, how do I explain that? Because the braids, like you do like one on this side, then you do one this side, then you do one this side, one this side. But because you're eliminating 3 cable repeats with the short rows, it's not an even number. So you just need to start on the opposite side. So you'd need to do a little bit of thinking when you're looking at the pattern, make sure that you're doing the right twist at the right time. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't know. But yeah, I have a feeling that I'll be able to make that look a little bit tidier. So I'm kind of like, if I start again, I can attempt that. The other cable that I would adjust would be this one here. I'd actually work in like a half cable just to reduce this kind of like amount of stockinette stitch that you see here, because I feel like it really stands out because this is such a textured piece. There's no stockinette stitch like anywhere basically. So to have this big kind of section up here, I just feel like it stands out a little bit. And it might just be a me thing, but you can definitely work in like a half a cable on the side, and then on the side you just have to do like a shorter twist, and then you could possibly do one all the way up here too, like just a half. And I don't know if I'd do that half up there or just kind of start from there down, but just reducing that amount of plain stockinette, I just feel like it would look a little bit better. So there's a couple additional like changes that I kind of want to make, which is why I'm leaning towards just ripping it back, sizing down on my needles, and perfecting those like kind of short rows and cables. The other thing with the sizing, I I did realize this, but I also didn't realize this. I just didn't like really connect the dots. The gauge and therefore your finish measurements of the piece is based on an unblocked gauge. And so I've sized up to a size large, which I also like didn't get my ease right. For some reason I noted like 23 centimeters of positive ease, but it's actually meant to be 26 centimeters of positive ease unblocked. And so when you block it, that's why mine's gone to like above 30 centimeters in terms of ease, because it's just getting huge, it's out of control. So like I did read it because I remember measuring my gauge on this piece when it was unblocked, and I was like, cool, I'm basically on gauge. And then not really thinking that when I block it, it's going to grow and it's going to be like way bigger than I want it to be. So that's another reason why I'm like, I mean, I've already ripped back enough that I can now adjust the sizing, but also I can just, having a tighter gauge means that I could probably still knit the body to the size large. I'll still do the sleeves to like a medium, and I feel like the overall size is just going to be a lot nicer. So yeah, I don't know what to do on that one. You have to let me know. What do you think I should do? For now, it's just going to sit on the side, but I am concerned I'm going to run out of the mohair, because I only brought enough mohair for the size medium, because that's what I initially intended to make in medium. But then when I didn't like the green yarn that I hadn't initially brought as my main yarn, I brought an extra ball of the merino that I'm using in the colorway now so that I could make a large. And to be honest, like since like re-looking at all the measurements and everything like that, to be honest, I could probably get away with just 3 balls of that merino, because the big balls are like 200-gram balls. So now I'm also like, did I just buy a whole nother ball of yarn unnecessarily? And what am I going to do with that? Like 200 grams of DK weight merino. Like, what am I meant to make? I don't say a beanie. I don't want another beanie. Anyways, what have we got next? All right, so my next swap is another one that like I actually know I'm going to run out of yarn on for this one. So this is my Colette pullover by Sari Nordlund. Here she is at the moment. That's the back of it. There's the front of it. So this is meant to be knit with a light fingering plus a lace, or you can hold a single strand of DK, which is what I've done for mine. It is also meant to be knit on 3.5mm needles with the ribbing, etc. done on 3mm. In terms of construction, it's a top-down knit with a drop shoulder construction, and it's done in, you can see this all over like cable and like eyelet detail pattern. This is drop shoulder, so you do knit the kind of whole yoke section like flat in sections, and then you join in the round once you reach the underarms, and so the rest of the body's knit in the round, sleeves knit in the round. So for this one, you, like I said, you kind of cast on sections. So you start with the, oh my god, these needles. So you start with this kind of like back kind of triangle section. Was it a trapezoid? Is that the right name for it? This kind of rectangle triangle section on the back, and then you kind of continue to knit down until you reach the right length on the back. You pick up along your shoulder seam here, and you knit kind of like 2 panels. You knit 1, 2, and then you connect them in the round here, so that gives you your kind of neck shaping. And then once you've got your front piece, again, you just like knitting it down until you reach the right armhole depth. And then you join the 2 sides together, the front and the back and the round. And you can see I haven't done much more on my body. I've just joined it in the round there. You then pick up your stitches for your sleeve, and you knit those in the round, doing some decreases as you go down. And then for both the body and the sleeves, you would finish off in your 1x1 rib. And then you pick up your stitches for your collar, and you're knitting a 1x1 folded collar for the finishing details there. So for my piece, as mentioned, I did use a single strand of DK weight yarn for this one, and I've used the Drops Merino Extra Fine yarn, which is meant to be 100% merino. It is their superwash yarn. it feels very different from the Bendigo Woolen Mills Superwash Merino yarn. This one's more like cold to the touch, if that's kind of makes sense. It's still like warm when you wear it, like it warms up, but initially it's not as like warm and fuzzy, whereas the Bendigo Woolen Mills one is. So I just feel like that one's less harshly treated, maybe. I don't know. I really don't know, because I haven't like washed these or worn these, so I actually don't know how they're going to fully perform. But this one just feels like more of a cooler, less warm yarn than my Bendigo, even though they're both superwash merinos. Anyways, the colorway for this one is number 06. Now I'm not sure if it's meant to be brown or taupe, because on one website I looked at, it was called brown and the other one was taupe. I would definitely say it's more just grey, but it's definitely more taupe than brown. So, you know, let's go with taupe. For mine, there's no way anyone's getting gauge with this particular piece. If you read all the Ravelry notes, like no one's getting gauge. So if you are planning on making this, keep that in mind when picking sizes. You're not going to be the same gauge. You probably have to make a different size to what you intended to, which is what happened to me. So I'm using 4.5mm needles for mine. And I did have to then size up in the kind of size that I wanted to make. So initially I think I was going to make like a size 2 or 3, and then I was tossing up between 4 and 5. So last time you saw this particular piece, it was just like the yoke section, and I had 2 yokes. So one I had knit in a size 4, and I was like, oh, I don't know, it might be a bit small, but going up to size 5 would mean that I was jumping up quite significantly. So most of the sizes just jump up by like 1 cable repeat in size, just looking at like the front flat. But between 4 and 5, it jumped up like 2 cable repeats. So it was quite a significant jump up in ease. And I was like, oh, if I go size 5, it's going to be too big. So I kind of looked at the pattern and I realized that there's totally like a size 4.5 in the pattern if you just follow the other set of charts. And so that's what I ended up doing. I just knit this to a 4.5 in terms of size. And now that I've done that and I've blocked it and I've attached the sleeve, I'm a little bit like, did I make the right decision? I probably could have got away with a 4 and it probably would have been perfectly fine, because the shoulder has stretched out quite considerably. But, you know, the body section's looking pretty good fit-wise, but I don't have that much length on it. So it's kind of like hard to tell, but the cable kind of cinches in, so it's not as big as it would be if this was like stockinette, for example. So it's like, I don't know, the sizing is just, I'm a little bit iffy about it, but I've just continued with my 4.5. And yeah, anyways, since I last showed this, I've done another 40 hours of work on it. So we're up to a total of 100 hours on this particular piece. Keep in mind I did 2 yokes. So I did pick up and knit my collar in, because you want the collar attached for when you're trying it on, because this is going to cinch in a little bit. I don't know. Anyways, you meant to knit your collars first, I've heard. I opted to do mine in a twisted rib on mine, and at first I was really unsure whether or not I was going to like the twisted rib, but I think it looks really, really nice now that I've done it. And then, yeah, I picked up my sleeve and started working that. I've got to the point on the sleeve where I kind of ran out of yarn, so I've just paused and I'm now picked up and started working the other side. Now, I'm definitely going to run out of yarn for this one. So, look, when I was picking the yarn and the pattern and stuff, lots of people said in their Ravelry notes that the yarn estimate is well under, and apparently that's super common with Sari Nordland patterns, because when you have to test knit, you basically have to do what I've done here, and that's it. So the yarn estimates aren't always accurate. And so I looked at people's projects who had knit a similar size to what I wanted to knit in terms of guesstimating yarn usage. One of the other projects that I'm making is also, it's a DK plus a mohair, but I needed like 10 balls of yarn for that. So I brought 11 balls for this piece, and that was over like the estimates for the sizes that I wanted to make. However, like when I got the yarn and I knit my gauge swatch, I realized that I was no way going to meet gauge. Then I had to size up. like 1 or 2 sizes, and that meant that now my yarn estimate was under again. So basically I've got like 2.5 balls, I think, of yarn left, and I still have like the whole sleeve. I don't think the sleeve is quite to the right length. I think I need to do a little bit more before we do the ribbing. And then my body, I reckon I need to do probably another 2 full cable repeats before I do my ribbing. So I've still got like a decent chunk of the sweater to go. So there's no way that I'm going to be able to finish it. And because the yarn, the drops yarn that I've purchased is like I brought it from like Denmark or wherever it was from, I'm probably going to maximize out my order. So I need to finish this so that I can guesstimate how much yarn I need for this particular piece. Like I mentioned with my Arctic Lights, I'm concerned I might run out of mohair on that one. I might need 1 extra ball of mohair just because I initially brought yarn based on the medium. Now I'm kind of making somewhere between a medium and a large, so I might just have enough, but I might not. So we need to finish her, and since this particular piece has used more than 11 balls of yarn, the other project that I only brought 10 balls of yarn for, I'm kind of concerned that maybe that's not going to be enough to actually finish the piece, even though that was the recommended yarn. Like the combo that I purchased, like the Lima and the mohair, was what the sample was knit in, and the meterage and like other people's projects seem to align to that amount of yarn. But I'm just concerned given how much yarn this one's required. So I kind of want to cast that one on next, just so that I can get it underway and make sure that I'm not going to run out of yarn, because if I'm placing an order, I only want to place 1 order and I want to get all of the extra balls for all of the projects that I need to get. Plus I'll then add on maybe some more yarn for some other like new projects or upcoming projects or something like that as well. So I just need to like make sure that we've got adequate quantities. So basically I'm just going to continue to knit on this until I run out of yarn, and then she's going to be sidelined, which is a real shame because this is like a good weight piece for the kind of autumn season that we're in at the moment, and now I won't be able to wear her probably until the end of winter, going into maybe more springtime, by the time that I finish my other projects, order the yarn, get the yarn, hope like how that there isn't like a major difference in color, like dye lots. That's my other main concern. I'm hoping, because this is kind of like a darkish color, it should be okay. Hopefully it won't be too obvious if there is a difference, but that definitely concerns me. I'm not really worried about like the mohair being different. The other jumper that I'm making is in a chocolate brown color. That, I guess, it kind of concerns me too. Anyways, I got to finish that. Got to finish my other projects. So drops projects are going to be the priority. And talking about other drops yarn projects, I have a brand spanking new cast on here, which I actually brought way more yarn than I needed to for this one, like twice as much yarn. I don't know how that even happened. But this is the Twist Loop Top by Other Loops. It's a fingering weight knit using 3mm needles, and it's a top-down knit in a all over 3x2 rib with this nice kind of cable detail that you see running down the center. This is like this kind of yoke section here is knit flat in kind of little sections, similar to like your drop shoulder situation. And then once you reach the underarms, you kind of just bring it together and knit everything down in the round. So for this one, you start by casting on. Man, I got to remove needles before I start these updates because they just hit everything and make noise. So anyways, for this one, you start with like a provisional cast on the shoulder. I don't even know if you're going to be able to see where my provisional cast on is. I went with like Judy's Magic Cast On because it's one of my favorite new techniques. So you do like a provisional cast on your shoulder, and you knit this little like kind of shoulder section here. You do the same on this side, and then you cast on some stitches to bring them together. And you knit like your front panel, working with your cable detail, and you do some increases to kind of shape the armhole. You do the same for the back. The panels are a lot shorter on the back because your neckline's a bit higher, but you just continue to knit down, sans any cable on the back. And then once you've finished all of your increases, you join together in the round, casting on some additional stitches under the underarm, And then, like I say, you just knit this body down in the round. You continue this cable pattern as you go down. And then lastly, you do some finishings, which I've already actually done on mine. So you pick up all these stitches around the armholes and you do an I-cord edge to finish. And then you pick up stitches for your neckline, and you're meant to do a 1x1 folded rib collar for the top there. So for mine, I've used Drops Flora yarn, which is 65% wool, 35% alpaca. It's the thinner version of Lima, and this is in the color number 31 Sand. I've used the same needles as per the pattern. My gauge is pretty much spot on, which is like unheard of. And I've made mine in one size up from what was recommended. So this is a size large for mine, which should give me about 3 centimeters of negative ease. I really wanted my piece to look really similar to the sample photo, where it's kind of like loose and you can kind of like front tuck it, because I kind of foresee this as being a little bit more of like a work top, which is actually why I casted this on, because I started job hunting this month, and so to, I don't know if celebrate is the right word, but to reward myself for being a grown-ass adult and job hunting, I was like, I'm going to make myself a work top so that, I don't know, if I get any interviews or I get an actual job, I have a new top to wear in the office. I actually have a in-person interview early next week, so I'm hoping that I can actually finish this and block it and wear it to that. So we shall see if she gets done on time. I reckon I can do it. But anyways, for my piece, I did make some modifications, again, just based on looking at other people's Ravelry notes, and kind of copied what they did. So the first mod I did was actually cast on an extra 5 stitches, I think it was. Yeah, 5 stitches on each of the shoulders. To be honest, they're still pretty skinny. I haven't blocked this yet, so they might like widen, but they're still pretty like narrow. I reckon I could have maybe gone for like an extra additional stitch because I have quite broad shoulders. But I actually really like how it looks currently, but just thinking like work appropriate top, you kind of want a wider shoulder. But anyways, I like how it looks currently. But yeah, I did extra stitches here. I'm really glad they did do that, because if I didn't, the shoulder would be like even skinnier and it would be definitely like a little bit too skinny. So I did that, and then to compensate for mine, I did eliminate the stitches from the neckline. I noticed a lot of people just omit some increases on their underarms, but I didn't want to like shorten the armhole at all. Again, like I'm a little bit of a giant, so I was like, I don't think this armhole depth is going to be an issue. And when I looked at other people's projects who had modified their armhole, it looked like it was really, really high and up and under there, and I didn't want that. I wanted to sit like more of a normal kind of depth, and I don't have any issues currently with the depth of this armhole. It's fitting pretty nicely currently. Again, I haven't blocked it, so I'm hoping when I block it, it doesn't something like gape open or like drop down really far. But current state, it's looking really good. The neckline, because I did size up to a large, and my recommended size based on my bust measurements was a medium, eliminating 10 stitches from the front and back neckline actually just brought me down like to the neckline of the size medium. So it was like you didn't have to do any other thinking or math or anything like that. It perfectly like worked out for my particular piece. So neck hole is to a medium, everything else is to a large in terms of stitch count. Like all across here is size large stitch count. So I did that. What else have I done? I've slightly stretched out the length in between my cables, only by a couple rows. I did like 31 rows for whatever reason, and then I've just copied that as I've gone down. And then in terms of the, damn needles making noise, in terms of my neckline, you can see here I've also copied other people and did a double knit neckline on mine as well, and this was really, really tight. The first time I tried it on, I could barely get this over my head, and there's like a makeup stain on it already. But subsequently, when I've been putting it on, it's already like stretched out enough that I actually can get over my head. It's still snug, but like it gets over fine. So blocking that out, it should just make it really nice. And I've done my I-cord edge on here already. So basically, once I got down to about here, I had just joined in the round, is when I ran out of my first ball of yarn. So I decided to do all my finishings at that particular point because I knew they were going to be like super tedious to do, and they definitely were. So I'm glad I kind of did the finishings first, because now all I have to do is just like knit down in the body, and it's just mindless knitting basically. So at the moment, I've just got one more cable row to do on this particular chart here, and then I'll knit down another chunk, like basically what this gap is here on the bottom, and then we'll try it on the length. It's currently, I feel like it's going to be a little bit too cropped, but I'm hoping, I've just tapped into my like third ball when I started this kind of third cable repeat, so I'm hoping I only end up using 3 balls of yarn on this particular piece, because I, for whatever reason, bought 6 balls of yarn. And when I look at the pattern, I'm like rework out the measurements, like the maximum I need is like 3 point something. So I should have really only brought 4 balls of yarn, but I brought 6 balls of yarn for some reason. So I'm definitely going to have some left over. So I'm hoping that this requires 3 balls of yarn, then I'll have 3 balls of yarn left. So I'll be able to make something similar with the remaining yarn. If I do end up knitting this down and it's too short and I have to tap into a 4th ball, then that will go out, add on maybe another ball or 2 onto my drops shopping list as well. So I mean, this one's almost finished. It's not like something that I have to go and like, gotta finish another drops project, but this adds to my drops projects that I need to finish to make sure that so I know how much more yarn to buy. I don't know what other top I will make in this particular yarn, but if I have enough for another singlet style top, I will be making a singlet style top. But yeah, I think the only other thing I want to change on this is like when I get to the hem, I was thinking of doing like a folded hem. Again, that's probably going to be length dependent on whether I end up doing that or not, but I thought that might be a nice way to finish the piece. Otherwise, I don't know, I'll do like a stretchy bind off or something like that. But yeah, so far this has taken me, how long? 56.5 hours to do. Like I say, I'm pretty close to the end. We don't have too much more to go. And in terms of like the pattern for this one, it is super well written. It's a very simple and straightforward knit overall. It's nothing too complicated, but the instructions are all there. It's detailed enough. There is a chart for the cabled section, which is very easy to follow, and it's got like a nice description for the like cable twist, so you know what you're doing. So highly recommend like other loops for their patterns. This one's been super easy to follow so far. What else are my thoughts on this particular piece? Oh, cast-ons. That's the only other thing that was different in this one, and it was like a bit of a new technique for me. So at different pickup points, it tells you to do different types of cast-on. So it tells you to do a professional cast-on for the shoulders, which makes sense, and I did Judy's Magic cast-on. When you're doing your neckline stitches, it just tells you to do your normal like kind of backwards looper cast-on, which I did. And for the underarms, it tells you to do another provisional cast-on, and I wasn't sure how to do it for the underarm section because you've already got stitches on your needle, and I looked up a video tutorial on how to do that. You basically just hold another like strand of yarn. I just held another cable with mine, and you wrap your yarn around your needle and the cable or spare yarn or whatever you're using, and yeah, you just knit across. So it's a really easy way to hold some stitches. I don't know what value that necessarily added, but I did like it. I think in like raglan jumpers, it might be something like I try, because then it'll just be super easy when it comes to like working your sleeve, because you've already got all the stitches on hold, including the underarm stitches. You don't have to pick up any stitches through any loops. So I might just try it and see if it looks any neater than like picking up stitches. Like I don't have any issue with picking up stitches for underarms, but yeah, I don't know what the difference was. I don't know if it's something to do with because you're working I-cord edge or what, but like you have to pick up stitches along everywhere else. So like, why would you not just pick up stitches with underarm? Anyways, I just thought that was like an interesting call out that there was like a different technique for like your casting on sections for this particular top. And yeah, that's about it. That's my other loops top. So hopefully it brings me luck or hopefully I finish it in time and I can wear it to my job interview, and then hopefully it brings me luck for my job interview. And if it doesn't, then this top is just going to remind me of a very depressing time in my life where I cannot get a job. So we'll see. By the time I've posted this, I would have had the interview and everything. So I don't know. You'll find out eventually if I got a job or not. And that is everything that I've been working on in this past month. I feel like I've put a lot of hours into my knitting, but I haven't necessarily made a huge amount of progress. There's been a lot of ripping back this month, like the Arctic Lights. I've done 2 rip backs on already, and maybe we're going to do another one. The Colette pullover, like I did rip back the like old yoke and wash the yarn and do all that. And then when I was knitting the sleeve, like I knit some of the sleeve and then I ripped that back because I wasn't happy with like the decrease rate or where I put my decreases in it. So like, I don't know, I feel like there's been a lot of like 2 steps forward, 1 step back in this past month. And in this coming month, as I already mentioned, it's going to be a focus on all these drops patterns, which is like, I don't know, I'm not that excited because I know that the Colette's not going to get finished, but then I need to work on these other ones so I can get yarn so I can finish it so I can actually wear it. And yeah, the other like jumper that I'm going to make is the Agnes sweater. That's going to be similar to like Arctic Lights in terms of like thickness and like warmth. And so I'm not that excited to make it because Arctic Lights has turned into my like thick warm jumper to make for this winter season. And now I'm rushing to make like a second one instead of like maybe saving it for like next year's winter season, you know what I mean? But then I need to know, like if I want to going to place another order for drops yarn, like I need to know because I don't want to leave it a whole another year and then have to place another order because the shipping is just too expensive. And then I also want to maximize out their shipping as well. So then I have to buy more yarn for another project. And I just really don't know what project I want to make with drops yarn. It's more, yeah, I don't know how I feel about drops yarn, to be honest. I have a bit of mixed opinions on it. Like it's okay, it's not the like greatest, but then the color range is a little bit better than some of the other yarns that I can get my hands on. So I'm in this kind of like, I don't know, middle zone where I'm like, do I want to buy more drops yarn for another project or not? Anyways, let me know what you guys are working on because maybe something might spark an idea for me to make another project with the drops yarn. So yeah, let me steal some ideas. Otherwise, if you like these type of videos, do those YouTube things. I will have project vlogs for everything that I'm working on that will come out eventually. I've got a bit of a backlog of videos because most of them are taking like quite some time that I end up splitting them into 2 videos because there's so much like filming that goes into those particular projects. So yeah, they will eventually come out. I think the Arctic Lights one is the video that I'm most looking forward to because of the number of ripbacks. It makes it, I think, a little bit more entertaining. So subscribe, do those things if you want to be notified when those eventually get released. Otherwise, I will see you guys next month when we talk about more drops yarn patterns because that's what it's going to be. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed and I'll see you guys in the next one. I feel like I really need to put some lip liner on, but anyways, I don't care. So for my piece, I've used, there's fluffs everywhere. Oh my gosh. Couple changes that I've made on mine. I've got fluffs on my lips. Oh, I've got to tend to my soup in a second. Oh my gosh, these needles are going to make so much noise. Cannot get you on the coat hanger. What are you called? The twisted loot. Say that again.